Would you like to understand why your first romantic relationship in life probably isn't the one person for you, or the destined partner which you will marry for the rest of your life? Why that person probably isn't that person? Then listen to this entire video. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to learn more about relationships or self-development and reducing suffering in life. Okay, let's start. I will compare dating and relationships to restaurants. I will use a restaurant analogy. Now, let's say you locate a street filled with restaurants. And when you come to the street and you want to try out different menus, different restaurants, you don't stick with the first restaurant on the street before checking out all the other ones. It's not like you go to the street, you see there's restaurants all down the street, you see the first one, and for the rest of your life, you stick to that restaurant. That's just not how it works, right? You can try out the first one, but the likelihood that that restaurant offers the perfect menu for you, or not the perfect, but the one that suits you best, is very unlikely, right? Now, I'm comparing this to people, to relationships. The likelihood that your first relationship, like the restaurant, is the one that suits you perfectly is very unlikely for several reasons. Now, people often flock to restaurants that appear popular, that have many people sitting inside because it appears as if there's demand in the restaurant, or, for example, and that other people like it. This could be, for example, someone who shows off their appearance, who is visually very attractive and looks good. However, once you try the menu, you may realize that it's not perfect for you. It's likely not perfect for you. Just because everybody else thinks it looks good, or it looks good from the outside, probably not perfect for you. Then you realize that just because there are loads of people flocking around it doesn't mean it's right. So you realize, okay, you maybe shouldn't focus on appearance. Let's say on what the restaurant looks like from the outside. So what the person looks like. The best restaurants, I've realized, if you reflect on the restaurants you've been to, if you go on vacation, for example, whatever, they don't look the best from the outside. You first need to go inside the restaurant, read the menu, give it a taste, and feel the vibe. And you can't really determine that from the outside. There's usually like an Italian mama inside who cooks like excellent soul food, soul food, that's it. This pure love, like sort of unconditional love, that's just right for you. And these restaurants usually aren't located or to be seen in the touristy areas, which are where like the tourists go. They're usually hidden away, and you need to keep an eye open to look for them, or else you won't see them. And how would you like extrapolate that to life and dating? Well, I'd say you need to try out. That's what it is. You're not gonna find the right one like that. And for the reason it's like this, let's say there's a nice quote from a song. It goes something like, if you ever fall in love with the wrong person, just remind yourself that you gotta fall in love with the wrong person just to find yourself. I love that. I mean, by trying out different menus, you figure out what's best for you. And it's hard to know what you need in life without trying sort of different suppliers, unless you're, let's say, excellent at introspection and knowing yourself. But what happens in your mind, what you sort of envision would be good for you, is very often different what it feels like in reality. And this is certainly the case for young people, and this is relevant because, when you're young, that's when you start dating and having relationships. It's especially for young people because when you're young, you simply haven't had the time to sort of know yourself, literally, like you haven't had the time or experience yourself as much, and you can't expect a young person to meet the right person at once because the probability of them knowing what they need for themselves is quite low. Hence, you need to try stuff out, try different menus, see what you like, and then move on. And it's always tough because the first relationship, I mean, I just got out of my first relationship, is like, it's difficult to let go of and believe that there are other restaurants that might be better for you out there because you haven't experienced it, you have no point of comparison. And this is important to have, it's important to have that faith that there is something else out there for you, and just take that leap of faith, so to let go of the relationship and move on. Yeah, you can't expect a young person to find the right one immediately. So the key here is to get to know yourself. That's what it is. To see what you need in a relationship. And I think it's so difficult. It's not impossible, but it's so difficult to do by just having a singular relationship, because you really need to compare. You really, really do, because I don't think humans have that ability to sort of put themselves fully in another situation. So imagine what a relationship with another person would be like, because you don't even know what that person, if that person even exists, you know. It's hard to sort of like feel that emotion, because, you know, love and relationships are a deeply emotional thing. Sort of trying to imagine what that emotion really feels like, and I mean really feels like. You can sort of give it a shot at what it might feel like, but to truly feel what it's like, I think that, I don't know if it works, honestly. So you got to go out and just try, like physically try it. You can't imagine it. That's not enough. That really isn't enough. Hence, you can try out so many things. So if we take away the restaurant analogy and just go back to the person, what are you looking for? I mean, a great tip is looking at. Well, you could analyze yourself first, but looking at how you as a person need to experience, how you get love from the other person. For example, I can highly recommend doing or reading I haven't read it myself, but I've done the quiz. It's the quiz on the 5 love languages, something like that. And there's 5 different sort of domains of how people experience love. It's words of affirmation, quality time. So words of affirmation is you feel love if somebody tells you, you know, I love you, or you look good today, you look nice. Then there's quality time, is you feel love by spending quality time with someone else, so spending time. Then there's physical touch, which is obvious, physical touch, whatever falls under that, that's how you feel love. Then there's acts of service, so if somebody does a favor for you, that's how you really feel love. Or gifts, number 5, which is if you get a gift, that's how you feel love. And these are very different channels through which you can feel love. And I have a feeling it's best if you find somebody who has the same channel or feels love through the same channel, because that way it's easier to express it also. Because if let's say for me, I think my top 2 channels are words of affirmation and quality time. And with my ex-girlfriend, her top 2 were acts of service and gifts. Now for me, that seems quite sort of cold, and I don't want to say materialistic, but it's hard for me to imagine, like, how can you feel love by getting a gift or an act of service, like true love? And that it's hard for me to sort of send that out then, whereas it's a lot easier for me to think, okay, you know, I love getting words of affirmation or spending quality time, let me give that to you because I know how to do it. I know what it feels like. It's a lot easier. And what I also learned is, I made a little list here. How you communicate, you know, like what you like. I mean, like values are key. You know, if you go to a restaurant, you need to know like the ingredients of the person, of the food. You know, if it's fresh or what you like, from what country, not what country, but you know what kind of style of food. That's so important. And also what I think super important is the vibe. Because in a restaurant you have a vibe, you have the interior, and if that person doesn't provide that vibe, it's also difficult, I think, to sort of stick in a long-term relationship with that person, because You're on a different frequency. That's what it is. You have different vibrations. Hence, you've got to try it out, see what you like, because it's difficult to know what you like from nothing, from square zero. You need to go to different restaurants. Don't stick with the first restaurant on the street, because no one does that. I mean, if it works for you, sure, but the likelihood of it actually working is quite low, I think. Okay, so that was my video on explaining why your first romantic relationship in life probably isn't the one for you, isn't the person you're going to marry long term, because you don't know what you like yet and you need to try out different restaurants. Yeah, so that was the analogy. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening.